Best. Let's get this shit. Let's get this shit. All right, Jester, can you use your seductive voice one more time?
Check 1, 2.
Wow, that was whew. All right, what's up, everybody? Today we're gonna be going over who the strongest person in Lookism is. And when I say we, I mean I have with me Deontay Wilder's Boogeyman, the man himself, Jester. If you want to say hi.
Yo, what's up? Those statements made by NoLuck were false, but I will say that me and NoLuck have created an objective tier list on Lookism scaling, uncontestable, of course.
Just like my earlier statements. Now, I like to break these things off early, right? So, the strongest person in Lookism right now is June Goo. There is absolutely no bias coming from me, and you can't prove otherwise. One really good piece of scaling here is June Goo's fight with UI Daniel. Jester, you remember that fight? That magnificent. Yeah, that was nice shit. So, in this fight, UI Daniel basically before fighting Goo gauntleted some of the highest tiers in this verse. We're talking Jake Kim, we're talking Samuel Seho, the GOAT, we're talking Johan. Like, he ruined everybody, right? And Goo came in and did a few very interesting things. Number one, he actually scares Daniel at one point by just threatening to get serious. And what's interesting here is that Goo basically looks at him. We see Daniel get that little heart thump, the little shook moment on panel. And this guy's in Ultra Instinct mode. Like, he's not really, as far as we can tell, he doesn't have much conscious thought processing. That means that Goo is so strong that Daniel's survival instincts kicked in and let him know, I gotta break the weapon in his hand so I don't get killed, which he does do. So, Jester, what do you think of this?
Well, this fight gets broken down basically to Ultra Instinct Daniel gets put in a situation in which he's previously been in, of him fighting Gun. He was matched with an opponent obviously comparable in strength to his. Now, we do all know that June Goo is a jokester in nature. We could see from the first couple of panels, and the reason why Daniel probably goes away and breaks the weapon is maybe because June Goo broke half the room with a random sword that he doesn't use, and then is like, maybe I shouldn't fight. Psych, this guy's just a jokester, and this is why he was playing around. So if June Goo messing around is just playing these like insane feats of strength, then why wouldn't Daniel instinctively just go and break the weapon if he feels in danger? I mean, animals by instinct just feel endangered by certain people. This is one of the, by instinct, he just felt like he was in danger, and even more dangerous when he got into that state of mind, which I'll let NoLuck explain what I'm talking about.
Right, and that's another really, really crazy thing about Goo. So, most of the time we see Goo, and this is stated by a few people, but the most important is Tom Lee, Goo's teacher. Goo is actually messing around almost 100% of the time. And we see this at the start of his fight with Daniel, right? He's messing around, he's just kind of joking with him, saying, I thought we were friends, why are you doing this? If you're going to continue, I'll just have to say sorry. And he's clearly being sarcastic. And even in this joking state, he gets closer to, actually beating up UI Daniel than Gun ever did, right? Gun obviously being another god tier in the verse. But when Goo's serious, he does a few things actually that are really, really good for his scaling. Number one, he actually, with a broken stick, mind you, not a sword, we find out that Goo is actually at his best when he's holding a katana. But with a broken stick even, because he's such a weapons expert, not only stopped UI Daniel from attacking, he's the only one to ever do this, even come close to it, right? He almost killed Daniel. And what we're led to believe on panel is that he simply chose not to. He actually had the sharp end of the stick at Daniel's throat and just did not stab him, right? Mr. Jester, what do you think of this?
I think this is extremely accurate. Now, we could see on panel that he just stops right at Daniel's neck, but for some unknown reason, he just didn't kill him. Now, if you guys look at this fight panel for panel, we know that the sword style that he's using here isn't just any sword style, but it's a sword style from an anime called Demon Slayer. And he's using the lightning users whose name I don't know, please don't roast me. He uses this lightning based sword style with extreme breathing techniques, which Gu copies because he just got up from watching the anime and he uses on Daniel effectively, going relative with him, using a broken stick, not even a sword. And then we're later shown that he was using Bado, which is some type of Japanese, sword fighting style. And then even the character who states this just notes, aren't you an expert at some type of Korean kendo? Meaning, who wasn't even going all out in that fight and was beating on UI Daniel.
Of course. Even further to this point, we know that Gu did not have killer instinct of any kind. And we know UI Daniel does, right? Most of the moves he's using could definitely kill somebody, but on top of that, we see the commentary of Samuel Seho and Jake Kim, and them having a very clear understanding that it was kill or be killed when they were fighting Daniel, and they fought as such. What's funny is that Gunn also thought that him and Daniel could potentially kill each other. And Gunn, the reason I like to allude to him is because he's stronger than pretty much anyone in this room that fights Daniel, minus like Johan, maybe, right? And on top of that, the teacher of Gu and Gun, Tom Lee, is the secret weapon of pretty much the main antagonist of the series. As far as the main antagonist is concerned, Tom Lee is his final line of defense, and he's confident Tom Lee can take pretty much everyone with the exception of Gu and Gun. Tom Lee even says he's not sure he can beat them anymore, even though he taught them. So we have someone, Charles Choi, who is extremely knowledgeable on the goings-on to the four major crews, and the four major crews have the strongest people in the verse, right? And he thinks Tom Lee can handle all of them. So pretty much Tom Lee scales above anyone in the four major crews, but for some reason, Tom Lee is uncertain that he can even step to Gu or Gun. Even further to this, when we see Tom Lee and Gu interact, they're not friendly at all. Gu, in fact, says, "If I see you again, I'll take your eyes out." That's not an exaggeration. He says, "I will carve your eyes out." And he doesn't seem like he's joking. He doesn't seem underconfident that that he can do this. He seems to be implying that he could take Tom Lee out by himself, right? So he's taking out what Charles Choi, one of the geniuses, one of the masterminds of the show, thinks is basically the god of the verse. So if the god of the verse loses to Gu, I mean, there's no argument for anyone else. There's just nothing there. Jester, did you have any thoughts on that?
No thoughts at all. And I think we could easily establish Gu's number one, because even if we do somewhat assert that Gun has some sort of relativity to, Gu, let's look at both fights at face value. Gu was able to parry and keep Daniel one time, almost killing him, and keep him at bay for almost most of the fight, even though his arm got broken in the end result. What do you expect? He's fighting UI Daniel, but he was able to hold him off using mediocre sword techniques with a broken stick until he went unconscious. Then let's take Gun, who is the hand-to-hand expert with Ultra Instinct as well. And where did he end up? On the floor under a full mount with a broken arm, basically not responding. And he had to wait until UI Daniel lost his form to be able to do anything. If he stayed there, from the looks of it at face value, he was going to lose very badly or die. Now, from both of these things, we could both, easily collect that off of this Gu is number one in the verse. And we have to inherently grant Daniel number two in the verse. Arguments for Daniel being number one in the verse are valid, but I think more consistently we'd have to say it's Gu, then Daniel, then Gun. After Gun, would you like to give your opinions on who's number 4? No luck, we might have a disagreement here.
I mean, I got Johan low-key with eyes, because like Zach should still scale below like Johan with his vision, right? And Zach was low-key kind of fucking up Bang. And if you're behind on Lookism, Bang is one of the 2 major guards for Eugene, one of the main antagonists right now. But even with this, right? Even with this, we cannot forget Goo's godliness, because Goo destroyed Johan with sight while he was bloodlusted. I just wanted that on record. But yeah, I think Johan scaling above Zach puts him obviously above Bang. And the only other piece here that could threaten Johan's, number 4 placement is Cap Guy. And all we've seen from Cap Guy is that he beat Daniel in base. And base Daniel doesn't really scale past everyone. He doesn't, as far as I can tell, he really doesn't even seem to scale past, like, Jake Kim if he's serious, or maybe not even Eli if he's serious. Now, that might be contentious with Jester, but that's my thoughts on it. Because Johan also did pretty well with UI Daniel, too, if you remember. He was the one who came in and did better against UI Daniel than the combination of Samuel Seho and Jake Kim. Like, you gotta be kidding me.
This is where we disagree. I don't even think the characters in the series agree with what you're saying. Because the moment they saw Daniel walk in the door, it wasn't even an Ultra Instinct. They were already scared. Now, the person who could step up to Cap Guy, or the other guard, was either Daniel or Johan. Now, at this point, with both of them having UI techniques in their arsenal, and definitely the amount of strength to back it up, I think it's more than valid to assert that Johan and that Daniel are some sort of relative. Now, I'm saying this is base Daniel, but I think base Daniel could kick it up another notch. Now, if you guys don't know, Daniel has UI, but Daniel also gives into the craziness of his bloodlust. And what I mean by this, he goes kind of crazy when he really gets into the fight, and he's not unconscious. Now, this is base Daniel's full power, right? And I'm saying base Daniel as the non-unconscious Daniel. Now, this base Daniel goes into this crazy fighting, I'm gonna kill you type of mode like Samuel Seyo, where we see Gun discredit people like this because they're too vicious. And this is basically Daniel letting go of his morality and just, I'm gonna beat you down and kill you type stuff. So this Daniel for sure should have some type of scaling above Johan. But at number 4, and which is why I said I don't agree, at number 4, definitively, it is Eugene's guards. They are both stated by a very credible character to be Goo and Gun level, which we have at 1, 2, 1, and 3 on the list. So at the very minimum, they have to be number 4, shared, both characters. And I could confirm this because Johan, very angry Johan, was casually blocked by a Eugene guard. Like, no problem. He just put his hands up and just blocked all his kicks without even sweating. So I think definitively we could put them at number 4.
Those 2 I do think are pretty close for the number 4 spot. Another thing I wanted to say, excuse me. Another thing I wanted to say, very much on topic, is that Eugene still takes orders from Goo to this day. I would say that if these 2 were strong enough to take on Goo, he wouldn't do that. So Goo still sits at number 1. Totally on topic. Now, who do you think's at the number 5 spot? I think we agree with the tier, right? With Eli, Samuel Seho, and Jake Kim competing for that 5 spot.
And it's Eli. Of course, it's Eli at number 5.
Stop, Jester.
Before NoLuck starts missing and rambling and spitting into his mic, I would
Bro, nope. Oh my God.
Number 5. Definitely. Direct training from Tom Lee, caught up to 3 years of training in 1 month against a bloodlusted Johan. And that bloodlusted Johan definitely scales. And this is not just bloodlusted, this is a one-shot Bosco type, I'm folding everybody, keeping up with like UI Daniel type Johan. So if this Johan is able to do all of this in this type of state of mind, and you're telling me Eli was swapping hands with him just because he's just an animal, he's just a beast like that, he's just built different, no martial arts, and he doesn't even see the need to go crazy, and he's using martial arts against Samuel and Jake? Come on now. These guys can't hold him. They're scared of Johan in that form. Eli wasn't. Eli's a beast. He's a G, certified gangster. Like this, nobody's holding Eli. You could put my Discord tag in bold letters on screen right now. If you disagree, you might have to see this.
Oh no.
Take a screenshot of my Discord tag in bold on screen.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to do this. I'll throw it up. Jester always wanting blood. So I actually think this is I think this is fair to say, right? Because the best feat we have for Jake Kim is beating Zhao Long, right? Zhao Long probably doesn't even scale to Johan. I'm gonna keep it a buck with everybody here. There's kind of a misconception that Zhao Long was stated to be as strong as Gun by Gun. But what's actually said is that Gun's unsure of, his capability of handling this martial art that Zhao Long uses effectively, because he's never seen it, and he's never had to fight anyone with it. But further to that point, there's no really good scaling for Zhao Long outside of Gun either. All we know is that he could be somewhat he's probably stronger than Vasco, right? He may be comparable to calm Jake Kim, but serious Jake Kim crippled this man, like actually put him in a wheelchair, right? Samuel Seho, he's kind of a problem, right? I actually don't think we've seen full power Samuel Seho, because he's even messing around during the UI Daniel fight. So he just doesn't have the scaling for it, right? Oh my goodness.
Wow. This is where in the video I have to sit in and calm this criminal. Tachi Bitashi Rama rants.
Look.
I've seen full power Samuel Seyo, and it was fighting Daniel when Daniel got bloodthirsty. And if you could put it the panels right now, they were definitely letting loose and killing each other. I think even stated in the fights haven't gone this crazy in a while. He's been holding back his viciousness and then he let it go. The notion or the thing that lets us know that he's letting loose is the crazy face, I'm feeling hot type vibe. When people feel that heat in their chest, it means they're getting an amp or power up, and that's the form people get. They either get UI, some sort of color in their eye, or they just get a demented, crazy look on their face, like Seyo does because he's just vicious. Then Daniel also has that. So we could calmly say that Daniel's fought Seyo in this previously, a much weaker Daniel, and they went toe to toe. So, even speed blitzing him and stealing his brass knuckle in front of his face, which is a pretty good feat by that Daniel, and I'd say so myself. So yes, we've seen Samuel Seyo go all out. I don't think Samuel Seyo could beat Jake Kim, and I don't definitely he loses to Eli. I think that's just subjective. So we could continue to look.
So I actually don't think that was when Samuel Seho went all out. I think there's something you have to, we won't even get into all that. But more to that point, Samuel Seho is also scared of Tom Lee. Tom Lee can't fight Gu, so Gu is still number one. I just want that on record. And then on top of this, right, Samuel Seho, where do you have him? Where do you have him with Jake Kim? You think he beats him?
I think Jake Kim has better feats. To be serious, Jake Kim right now, I think beats Samuel. They're heavily implied to be relative because of like this child, like narratively anyway, because they've been friends since all the way back in Big Deal. They've always been those type of rival Naruto Sasuke type vibe.
Literally taken from that anime.
You just have to take it at like face value, and I think Jake Kim gets a one up on him just because he was fighting somebody quote unquote gun level, as said by 3 different characters that this guy was this type strong. Now we don't know if that's exactly the case, but we do know that Jake Kim has performed gun level type feats, actually better than Gun because of his obsession to beat Gun. He one-upped him in the juvie jail, and the feat that he committed of raising blood from other prisoners up on the wall. And he one-ups him in this. I think like he doubles the size of the blood stain on the wall. He almost doubles it, and then fights somebody that's supposed to be gun level. It obtains this like heat in his body or this instinct, lets him fight people on this level. So I think for sure, I'm not saying he's gun level, but I definitely think he's above Samuel Sayo level. Until Samuel Sayo shows me something like, it just shows me a little something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I do like the comparisons between Serious Jake Kim and Gun. And I even like it narratively. I won't go too far into it. That'll be another video with Jester. But I do like the narrative that Jake Kim wants revenge on Gun. And he's getting to that point where he's a threat to Gun. So it'd be really cool to see him, basically beat Gun down and get Sinew back by just beating the information out of Gun, which he very much could do. We've seen Gun get into these fights, get beat down by UI Daniel, and he just willingly gave Daniel the keys to MCN, the fourth affiliate to go mess with Samuel Sayo. And then I guess even more to that point, just to kind of build on what you were saying, Jester, Goo wouldn't have been sent to jail. We saw people try to send him to juvie when he beat up that kid who tattooed Vasco, and he just debated his way out of it. This powerful rhetoric, Goo is the GOAT. Now, after this tier, right? So we have it so far, basically, Goo solidly, UI Daniel, Gun, but we're not even talking about Tom Lee. So, Jester, how do you feel about Tom Lee being below Eli?
Now, Tom Lee below Eli might be a little bit of a miss, but the reason why I don't think you add Tom Lee in a lot of these lists or don't include him is because his only feats is beating down a much weaker Eli, and then the lore that's behind him. For all we know now, currently this guy is just a washed-up old man, and he's just basically one big scarecrow. At the same time, he could also be a monster. Now, I'd say Tom Lee would have to be above Eli, but kind of has those feats. Again, the only thing that he taught Gun and Goo, not saying that's a bad feat, but he'd have to be, even with all this in account, he'd have to be in the top 5. I'm sorry. But I don't think he's beating Johan Revision. I don't think he's beating Gun. I don't think he's beating Goo.
No one is.
Definitely not beating UI Daniel. So
I must say though, no. I gotta slander him a little bit here. So Tom Lee doesn't make my top 5. Not even close. For a few reasons, right? He couldn't actually put down Johan. He stopped the fight with Johan, right? And this isn't the strongest one we saw. This is basically, let's see, this was before even One Night era, before the club era. And that means that he's gotten, 3, 4, 5 amps from fighting actual menaces. So right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Johan just, dog walked Tom Lee, right, and made him cry. On top of that, we know Tom Lee kidnapped Yenna, Eli's daughter, and he said he wasn't going to give that kid back until Eli was strong enough to take her. It's off panel, but we do see Eli's got Yenna. That's all I'm saying. That's just me. So I have him actually below Eli, and once he's below Eli, that's kind of a problem, because I do agree, Eli is probably above Samuel Sayo and Jake, but not by mountains or anything like that. I think they're actually close. Jake Kim and Samuel Sayo, obviously close. So if they're relative to Eli and Eli's above Tom Lee, bro, he's not touching top 5. It can't happen. Physics don't allow it. Also, on top of that, I just want to say, nobody's been able to beat Goo, no matter who he kidnaps, right? We saw him kidnap Vivi, and nobody did a damn thing. So, Goo can't be touched by Tom Lee. I don't care if he talks. So, I think that feat doesn't really put him pretty much anywhere. We have people that have taught Vasco, and the dude who fought Vasco, for all we know, could get fucking beat up by Crystal, who has almost no feats as well. She obviously gets beat up by Mary Kim, because Mary Kim just solos. Probably gets beat up. Vasco's teacher and Tom Lee probably both get beat up by Vin Jin if he takes his glasses off. I'll say it. I'll say it right now. I'll scream it from the rooftops. Jester, do you have thoughts?
Vin Jin is the most goated character. Not the second most goated character in the series. Sinu is number one, the GOAT. If you slander Sinu, you might have to run my wobble. Put Jester's tag up on the page. So I will literally sit here and argue why Sinu's number one in the verse, but that's for another time. I think, no trolling aside, Vin Jin would unironically slam them if taking his glasses off, or if you want to say the hypothetical Vin Jin coming back from a month earlier, who was in Gangnam. That's where he was on, Gangnam, running crews, beating everybody up.
Yep.
But we're at this point in this video where we've cemented this top 5, but I like to give some special outliers of the series, which is that weird brass knuckle, one punch man built and some leader for some odd reason who one-shot Daniel across the room. That guy. Then, the rest of his crew, like the skinny, like weird built Tokyo Revengers copycat character who folded the duo from Hostel pretty easily. Those guys are Spurgs in their own right. And then, a special shout out to the biggest menace on the series, Vin Jin's supposed girlfriend, the fat judo queen who folds every single gangster from Gang.
Bro, by herself. Oh my god.
Which I remember at the time, Daniel Zach were struggling again. Let's keep all of this in mind. I don't know if these are outliers or not, but this verse tends to spurg out a little bit like this. It's not to say that woman skills above them. Who knows? You could go ahead and argue it, but that's pretty ridiculous. Just I want to give special shout outs to those guys, but also a very special shout out to the first guy I talked about, the guy from Anson who's about to get folded next chapter. Wait, today's Friday? Wait, what's today?
Sunday.
Oh, he's probably already dead. Let's go read that chapter.
Bro, let's go read that shit. Let's go.